So you stood in line quietly, waiting to surrender your handguns, and because of that, now you quietly will stand in line yet again to surrender your survival knives. Dear God, what a shithole United Kingdom has become. It is downright embarrassing. That place, a place in which you lost your country to invaders, to traitors, a place where you don't even have the right to express your opinion about how your society, your culture is being destroyed. I mean, what is it that you have? What's the point of a place like that anymore? That's not a country. That's hell. A place where you don't have the right. I mean, and these are things that happen little by little. If you allowed yourselves to live under the tyranny of a king, but it's not, okay. You allow yourselves to live under the tyranny of a government that disarms you. Oh, no, but handguns are bad and I'm still allowed to have my shotgun. Okay. You allowed yourselves to live under a government that is taking away knives from you, from crying out. But those zombie knives, you don't get it. Those zombie knives are evil. Okay. You allow them to tell you that you don't have a right to express yourself anymore either. When is it enough? When do you say, stop, we can't live like this anymore? This is worse than Venezuela. This is worse than North Korea, for crying out loud at some point. This is just ridiculous. You're no different from North Korea at this point. You cannot complain about your kids being brainwashed with leftist LGBTQ agendas in school or in social media. You can't complain about the disaster that the government is or immigration. Yeah, all of the but that's what the what is that they were calling them in the Daily Mail? The keyboard thugs. Yes, you're a keyboard thug, because you express an opinion that is not approved by the government. What the fuck is that? Anyway, guys, the news is now that the concept of a zombie knife, whatever the fuck that is, has been expanded. So for those of you that don't speak crazy Brit government language, zombie knives are knives that are associated with zombies, green colors, and violence, or any of those, or whatever idea or perception you have of what a zombie knife could be, basically. But it's usually going to be, you know those cheap knives that say like zombie killer or has like the green zombie color. Anything that is zombie related, that's a zombie knife. But beyond that, if it has like pointy things, I mean, yes, it's a damn knife, so sure, it's going to be having those. It's going to be sharp, hopefully. But anyway, this stupidity of ending knife violence because we're going to be banning zombie knives is beyond belief. Now, if you are that stupid, you probably don't understand that this has nothing to do with zombie knives or zombies or knives or weapons. It's all about you submitting to the greater powers. You submit to a king, you submit to a government that is the same as a king, you submit to anyone that tells you what you can or cannot say, and you will submit with this too. It is embarrassing. I would be embarrassed to live in that place. I lived in that place. Fucking lucky to get out of... Imagine if I had to surrender my knives. I mean, the craziness of this is beyond belief. So, with a new expansion of what a zombie knife is, now it includes a blade that... Listen to this bullshit. A blade that has more than one hole. So you maybe saw one of those weird knives, like fantasy shit that has like several holes. Right. Oh, but those were crap anyway. Shut up, you hater. Shut up. That's not the point. It doesn't matter that zombie knives were probably crap anyway. Doesn't matter. But here is the point. That's why I throw all of this on the table. Because you allowed all of this to be taken away from you. Oh, I didn't care because they were shitty knives anyway. Well, now you will have your several $100 knives taken away as well. If you allowed any sort of insanity to restrict your rights and your right to even have tools like knives, then you cannot be surprised when this ends up happening. What happens right now is because of you allowing it in the first place. You allowed it and allowed it again and again and again and again. And this is how you end up. So now besides zombie knives, they expanded it to a knife that has like several tips, sharp points. So if it has like a tip here, for example, this, Absolutely, completely banned. It has several tips that's sharp, pointy things. So that's making it a zombie knife. That's a zombie knife. Now, if it has like those, the battle axe from Star Trek, that sort of thing which is unwieldy, shitty toy, which, yeah, I guess if someone hits you with that, I mean, this is no difference from you being stabbed with anything else, really. In fact, those things are horrible to be used as a weapon. I would be glad if someone is stupid enough to attack me with a shitty toy instead of a proper, well-made blade. But again, that's not the point. The point is that they're banning it. So if it has more than one hole, banned. If it has more than another tip or point, banned too. And if it has a saw on the back, that's gonna be banned too. And that is basically Rambo knives, traditionally considered Rambo knives, like this one that says Rambo on the blade. Well, apparently they don't care that Rambo was using a knife designed by a knife maker, a blacksmith that was trying to make a survival knife. And that is how, with the ban of zombie knives, you're effectively banning a ton of survival knives that are out there. I just have a few examples. M9 bayonet, serrated on one side. So if it's serrated on one side and it has the blade on, that's banned. The only exception is if it has like a little bit of serrations here, that's gonna be okay. That's how you're allowed to keep that. Now this one, Aitor Oso Blanco, White Bear, a super traditional survival knife, banned because you have serrations. You have Buckmaster, that is what, $300 knife. You will have to turn this thing in. You will have to surrender this to the authorities because it has all of these serrations, you see. What about historic? Well, if it's over 100 years old, you're allowed to keep that. Whoopee, hooray. This, banned. This, not banned because it's less evil because of the serrations. Oh, they're so stupid. Don't even say that anymore. It's not them being stupid. You are the stupid one. You are the one that is an idiot that has allowed this to happen and just pointed at anything else and say, that's good. Zombie knives are crap. Rambo knives are shit. Survival knives should not have us. That's not the point. You're losing everything, including your right to express yourself. Don't you see the idea that this is somehow more deadly than this? It's actually the opposite. And I know what I'm talking about because I've actually done my own survival knife and I know how these things work. And I researched this quite a bit. But before we get into that, no, this is not going to be making it more deadly than this one. In fact, if anything, if I have to fight with a knife, I would rather have the non-serrated blade, typical dagger, fighting knife, combat knife, whatever you want to call it, a lot better without this getting caught on clothes and fabric and whatever it is. There's going to be sliding a lot better into that stabbing action that you want to have. Serrations usually are not intended for any kind of combat. In this case, in the case of the Glock knife, it's described as a root saw for cutting the roots when you're digging and you find roots on their way. Traditionally, survival knives will have this to cut some kind of wood with it. Imagine having to surrender my childhood knife. The first knife I've ever had as a child, having to surrender that to these fuckers because some idiot thought that he would win some more popularity politician points with more bans instead of actually doing the things that they should be doing, which is kicking out people that come from different parts of the world with different ideas of what civilized behavior actually is. That's the only thing they should be focusing on. But no, let's just restrict more the rights of the people. Having to give that up. If you want to look at survival knives and I actually got to that point with Aitor when I designed my knife for them. This is my survival knife made by Aitor in Spain. And that was a big conversation, actually. Serrations or not serrations? Well, I actually did a lot of research into that. I've been using knives all my life. And I've always been I have used it, even in this horrible little knife. The serrations actually kind of do their job. But at the same time, when you have a properly designed blade, especially with this size, it's going to be chopping quite nicely, and you're going to be batoning with it. And the idea of you using it as a saw, a good saw, this for example, this one is terrible, this is completely useless in the M9. Aitor actually has a machine that makes these that are very good, and they saw quite nicely. So that was a conversation that we had, and eventually I got to the conclusion that, you know what, it's not 50-50, it's going to be more like 55% of people, maybe 60% of people that know what they're doing will rather not have this saw. And I kind of have to agree with that. So, hey, you could do both versions, right? But for the one that comes out, no saw. And that was the decision. Hey, are you sure? We do have the machine. And I was like, yeah, I know that you can do it. And it's actually one of the best saws in any survival knife is this one. The one made by Aitor is actually fantastic. It works actually as a saw. The root saw from the Glock is quite bad. That's terrible. But those are quite good. But still, the idea of not having, and one of the reasons why I went for not having a saw is precisely the opposite of the reason why the UK government is banning it. The idea of it is more deadly. No, it is not. In fact, if I have to use it as a weapon, I don't want all of those serrations, that this is basically a saw. I don't want all of those serrations getting caught on whatever I'm stabbing and cutting through. I want this to go right in. I don't want all of those things getting caught on the jacket or fleece or whatever it is. So no, I see the point of it, but yeah. No, because it actually does the opposite. A knife with those serrations is going to be a tiny little bit less deadly than the one without. Is it going to be making a huge difference? Of course not. If you get stabbed with this or with this, there's going to be very little difference. But what little difference there is, this makes it worse for stabbing. That's why you don't see in any of these weapons that are designed to be used as weapons by people that know what they're doing, by soldiers, stuff like this. And this is just one example of hundreds out there of historical daggers. Have you ever seen a medieval dagger or a ronda or any of these things intended for killing someone wearing armor with serrations? Of course not. It makes no sense. It does not slide better into whatever you're trying to stab into if you have serrations. But we're talking about things that don't matter because they know that none of these things are true. They know that they're not stopping any crime by banning Rambo knives or zombie knives or any of this crap. They're just convincing a bunch of fools out there that, yeah, they're doing something. Well, that's better. We're going to be hunting those zombie knives now, huh? We're going to throw in jail any of those keyboard thugs that have Rambo knives in their homes. Yeah, you're going to be losing maybe thousands of dollars in your knife collection, depending on how large it is, because it's going to be thrown all in a bin, and probably someone's going to be stealing it, because that's usually what they do. But anyway, guys, it is a sad day indeed. No, I'm not glad. I don't think, they deserve it. Good for you. Get screwed. No, I don't think that's good. I don't like seeing anyone lose their rights. But it has to be said that this is happening because you allowed it to happen, okay? It's all on you. It is the government you elected. It is the government you allowed to stay there. It is the government you allowed to keep on taking away your rights up to the point that you cannot put a fucking comment in Facebook without the fear of being arrested in your living room. Guys, if you want to learn more about survival and preparedness, get yourself street survival skills as well as surviving the economic collapse. And if you're living in UK, you definitely want to get bugging out and relocating and get the fuck out of there, because that is not a serious country anymore. That is just an embarrassment of a Muslim tyranny at this point. Have an awesome day. Take care.